Herzlich willkommen und welcome beim 37. DOK.fest München, die erste duale Festival-Ausgabe überhaupt, ever. Und von wo auch immer Sie uns zuschauen, wir freuen uns sehr, dass Sie dabei sind. Mein Name ist Florian Schwarz, ich bin freier Moderator und Sprecher beim Bayerischen Rundfunk. Und wir freuen uns sehr, dass wir heute den Film How the Room Felt von Ketevan Kapanadze Teil unseres Programmes haben können. Und wir können hier Ihnen eine Produktion aus Georgien vorstellen. Wir zeigen den Film in der Reihe Best of Fests 2022. And now I switch to English to welcome the director of How the Room Felt, Ketevan Kapanadze. Hi, Ketevani.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
And we have also the editor of the film, Eka. Also a warm welcome to you, Eka.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ketevani, where do we reach you? Where are you located right now?
Right now I'm in Tbilisi, Georgia, where I'm mainly based, but the film was shot in Kutaisi. It's another city in Georgia, not so far from Tbilisi, where I was living when I was working on the film. But generally I've been based in Tbilisi for my whole life.
Mm-hmm. And Eka, where are you located?
I'm also located in Tbilisi, in the capital.
Okay, great. Because for us, of course, not a lot of people traveled to Georgia, and we want to learn, of course, your country a little bit more, which is always nice on festivals that you have the possibility. So where the film was shot in Kutaisi, 135,000 inhabitants, it's the third biggest country of Georgia. Tell us a little bit about this city. Ketevani.
Yeah, yes, thank you. So Kutaisi is a really old city. It was capital of Georgia before Tbilisi was capital of Georgia, and somehow, though economically now Kutaisi is really not doing well because there is no because during Soviet times Kutaisi was quite industrialized city with the huge factory of cars, mm-hmm. which would give jobs to a lot of inhabitants of the city. Now that Soviet is Soviet is gone, the factory stopped functioning after this, and now Kutaisi is, I would say, third, because it's the third biggest city in Georgia, but economically it's it might be even not third, though it's the third biggest one. And a lot of people from Kutaisi moved to Tbilisi, the capital, to work here or would seek some work opportunities abroad.
Mm-hmm. So it's quite a vivid city. It has a long story, a developing city, of course. Before we talk about your film, how did you become a filmmaker? What was your approach of being a documentary filmer?
Yeah, it's it was quite random that I wanted to become a filmmaker when I was a teenager, with not a lot of background from my family or from the people I knew working in this field. I just wanted to do it somehow, and after I finished my high school, I went to the university, but I studied film theory and basically film criticism. I never studied filmmaking, but parallel to my theoretical studies, I just tried to learn more from open source, like from the internet, from some people that I started to meet more and more who would work in film industry here in Georgia. So I learned a lot from people, from my colleagues, from internet, and that's how it came to. Yeah.
Because it's rare that you take your really personal surrounding, your friends, which you also call in the film, your family, your protagonists came out of the very close surrounding of you. How was the work with these protagonists, even if you are friends, but then on the other side you were the director of the film?
Yeah, it's also it was that we became friends kind of throughout me working on this film, because the first day I met them, I really when we met, I started to shoot them really soon after this first meeting. So it was kind of simultaneously happening that we became friends throughout this process. And yeah, it's I don't think it could have been otherwise, because we have so much in common. And yeah, it was of course it's easier to work with people who understand you easily, kinda, but then it's harder because you have so many emotional like personal feelings towards these people also, and it's really hard to kind of build this distance between the material and yourself personally. Yeah. So in the editing process, you can really like you can really feel what a viewer would feel, and Eka, the editor, really helped me out with that.
Yeah, excellent. We will ask her also. So this material, did you start in the beginning shoot with a mobile phone, or did you directly start with real camera to know that it's going to become a major film?
The shooting itself started with a different camera, then it continued. It was a really low quality camcorder, which is generally used for like practicing. And I had this camera from just one workshop I was attending back then in filmmaking. It was a short-term workshop, so I had this camera from them. And the really first scenes were shot on this camera, but none of the material from this camera ended up in the final film.
Okay. So Eka, it was quite a lot of editing work, of course, in the beginning. How was the editing? How long did it take to mount this film then together as it now is?
Katie, I think it was a full cycle of a year, no? Because we were really lucky to get on board with the DOK.fest boutique workshop. So this really gave a certain flow and direction to our process, which was this mentoring program, which was following us for around 6 months, and then we finished the film after that. So it was almost a full year of on and off, of course, editing. And yeah, I do believe that it's nice to take this time, because you're taking time to think about the project and take a distance and look at it again.
So the project could really grow then. And Ketevan, you just said you as the protagonist and your friends, of course I switch always between two because they're both friends and protagonists. You had in common, of course, playing football together, which is, we come to these scenes also. But you have also classical, as we call the coming of age film, that means partying, loving, hanging around together. So were you always then in your role being part of this friendhood, or could you always say, okay, stop now, I have to step out and make the film?
No, it was like the whole process was really. We almost never like did this stuff, and I was always there with my camera. But I would join, like when I was shooting, I would also join them and drink a bit, and then behind the camera again. So I was kind of also with them all the time, but also working on the film. So it was kind of balanced, I would say, between these two.
Yeah, and also a nice balance, I thought, watching the film, between the party scenes, between the really like day life scenes that you say you have to get up in the morning, you go to training, you go to work, and then on the other side this very vivid football scenes, because it's quite a professional team, I would say. Where is the football team located, the women's football team that we see in the film, in kind of a league?
Yeah, so they are representing their city, Kutaisi, their team, like of the Kutaisi, and they take part in the national championships every year. Okay. And they've been twice champions of Georgia, their football club. So they are in a first league, and they are still playing, and they are doing it professionally. It's their main profession, but unfortunately it cannot be a main source of income, because salaries in female football are extremely low. So some of the professional football players females, they have to find another jobs like working in service or working in shops and so on. So yeah, it's their main profession, and they do it daily, but it's also not such a good economical opportunity for them.
So I can imagine it's a passion to play the football, but there are sponsors, so they all have real jobs, of course. They cannot live from playing football.
Yeah, I would say this football is kind of a real job as well, because they have salaries, but the salaries are really low. It could be it's like 100 euros per month, which is ridiculously low. It's maybe only enough to take a bus to training and back home daily. So some of the team members who are professional football players have to have another jobs backing them up financially, so they can, sustain themselves. But some of them who live with families, they kind of get around with just this small income.
Okay, excellent. Then we get a very nice and sensitive insight in the queer scene in your country and in your friendship. How big is the queer scene in Georgia?
I would say it's really hard to measure how big it is, because a big portion of it, I would say, is invisible. And for example, this group of queers in Kutaisi and in smaller cities, you cannot really meet them anywhere, if not some common friend or if some really random encounter. So in Tbilisi, the capital, there are few spaces which are queer or queer friendly, and there you can, of course, these are people, and I would not say it's a lot or it's quite big. There are just few places and few people who would go around in such queer spaces, but especially in smaller cities and towns where there is no this kind of places like bars or clubs where you would meet some and where you would really understand how many they are there. You really cannot say it, and usually it's just invisible small gatherings, which is also portrayed in the film, but it's also kind of method of survival for these people, because they need to find ways to each other, like queer people in the smaller cities especially, and they need to kind of establish this safe space themselves. So they gather in each other's apartments, they sit around in kitchens, just like in the film, and it's kind of also, I would say, a form of resistance to the environment around them, which is super conservative and homophobic, I would say, and just trying to create this space for you by yourself is also a form of resistance for me. So this film is, I would say, also about resistance.
So I can imagine that it's also, or that the film is a big plaidoyer for one side for the queer scene, but not especially to point on it, but to see that it's part of the vivid community in a town, and that is a big contrast also to very conservative, as we have it here, the same structures in society. Eka, when you saw the material on and on, of course, what if you shoot a documentary comes in, did you talk to the director, to Ketevan, sometimes that she had to reshoot scenes, or how was your work together during the process of editing the film?
We started editing or looking at the material at the almost very end of the production, and I think we had these discussions that to take the film to a totally new level, it would be nice to keep shooting a little bit, but then, and there was few shootings after we started to structure the film, but then the COVID pandemic started.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that was kind of end of the production period, and then we started this long, as any documentary, long path of figuring out how to find a film in this intimate material of portraying 4 different protagonists. And it was And it was a very, very interesting project process for me as a first-time editor of feature documentary as well.
Exactly, yeah, the long film and the characters you talked about, Lana, Sopiko, Anuka, we all meet them and we get a very good feeling of their life. You're close, but you leave them in a way also alone in their life. Ketevan, how complicated is it to finance a film in Georgia, to finance your film? Could you tell us a little bit about documentary filmmaking in Georgia?
Yes, sure. Local financial opportunities are really less, and it's generally the National Film Center, which runs on a low budget, which is like also separated between dozens of projects, shorts and documentaries and fictions all together. So this film, like if you don't do the co-production with some other country, you usually end up with a super small budget. And it's not a co-production, it's just Georgian production. So we also had to work with a really small budget. And generally our main source of the, main piece of the budget came from National Film Center, and then some really small money from two local foundations who deal with women's rights and human rights generally. So we really had a small budget, and also Eka, the editor, had to really be kind to us to help out with such a small budget, and yeah, it's somehow we still made this film, of course, but yeah.
Yeah, and
I was a lucky one.
Okay, Eka.
No, from the very first time of viewing the material, it was very evident that there was, for me at least, it was very evident there was something special going on there. And Katie is talking about distance, but she can, I mean, we can kind of laugh about it together, how like I also had trouble keeping the distance, falling in love with the characters very soon and early on in the process of editing, yeah.
And what I also like, being here in Munich, being part of the festival team and seeing all these films from around the world, documentary festival, always, I was very impressed just from the titles, you know, for us it's just a different script, it's a different writing. How do you spell or say the Georgian script? Muhdruli? How is it called?
Hedruli.
How is it called?
Khedruli?
Khedruli, okay, because it was so difficult to pronounce for me, but it's this very artful, it's just a little part, but it makes also this perspective here that we have on other countries, that we have on other societies. That was very interesting. Ketevan, planning new films, planning new projects, maybe a solo football film in the future?
I don't know. I do work on some stuff now, but none of them has to do anything with football so far. Let's see. We are actually editing now a short film. Eka is also helping out with that one, and I'm trying to develop a music documentary now. Yeah.
And the film runs on different festivals already. Is it planned to bring it on TV in Georgia? Now you're off, you're demuted. Again, please.
Unfortunately, we cannot screen the film publicly in Georgia because we are trying to keep the protagonists and also the team who worked on this film safe, because it could, because we've had cases when there was a film with LGBTQI topic in it that would be screened in the cinema, and outside you would have hundreds of people protesting about hundreds of far right-wing people protesting against this screening, and they can get violent. Yeah, and it also was a fiction film, so when it's a documentary, we are especially concerned about the safety of protagonists, so we don't really have a possibility to screen it publicly in Georgia, but we will try to do closed screenings by invitation for the queer community and for the people who would not end up dangerous to the protagonists.
Okay, so it's on the, yeah, just by hand also a very political film. Maybe that, or we hope that in the future it's more easy also to screen it and on TV to bring it to a broader public, because it's a very sensitive coming of age film with a very respectful communication with the protagonists, and we can only hope that it encourages a lot of people to even make documentaries, to watch documentaries, to go on festivals, and to encourage people to live the life that they want to live.
Yes, thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, hopefully, like of course for us, I would say the main audience maybe is always the local audience, because they know so much more about the context, and it's so much more important for us to be able to like show this film to the local people, like who also might get some more from this film, like about the whole thing, how it's going on, because a lot of people are really distant from queer communities. Also, maybe the people who live in the capital, they have less knowledge of how people in peripheries survive together, and how they have to face more different kinds of how to say different kinds of oppressions, like poverty also within them, or just a general homophobic atmosphere, or a lot of, or just lack of having spaces where they can be together. So yeah, like I would say we really hope to be able to screen the film at some point in Georgia publicly, but yeah.
Just the last sentence again, you hope what?
I really hope that in future, maybe in few years, we will be able to screen this film publicly in Georgia.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
We send you a lot of power and hope for this from Munich to Georgia. Thank you very much. How the Room Felt is your film, Ketevan, Kapanadze, and Eka, the editor, and to the director. Thank you very much. I just tell the audience here that this film, I do it in German here, ist also für den Kino-Publikumspreis natürlich auch, den können Sie hier bei uns gewinnen, oder Sie können damit auch gewinnen, in diesem Jahr wieder vom BR und vom Dreisat gestiftet. Der Film kann was gewinnen, Sie können was gewinnen, online abstimmen, ganz einfach auf unserer Webseite DOK.fest-münchen.de. Then I say thank you very much to Eka and Ketevan. Have a nice, wonderful day, and all the best for your future projects.